The world had fallen silent, broken only by the distant echoes of destruction. Hyun Park stood at the reinforced window of the underground bunker, his weathered hands pressed against the thick glass, watching the desolate landscape that was once Earth. The invasion had come swiftly, mercilessly, leaving nothing but ash and broken dreams in its wake. It had been 3 years since the collective first appeared in Earth's orbit. Their massive ships blocked out the sun, casting endless shadows over cities that would soon become graveyards. No one understood why they came. Some said resources, others claimed territorial expansion, but the truth didn't matter anymore. What mattered was survival. The bunker was deep beneath the Andes Mountains, a final refuge carved into solid rock and protected by technologies that humanity had developed in its last desperate moments. Around Hyun, barely 50 survivors remained. Scientists, military personnel, and a handful of civilians who had somehow survived the initial onslaught. Communications had gone dark months ago. The last transmission they received showed entire continents burning, cities reduced to molten ruins, and desperate human resistance crushed beneath the technological might of the collective. Their weapons were beyond comprehension. Energy systems that could vaporize entire military bases in seconds, drone networks that hunted survivors like prey. Hyun remembered the day everything changed. He had been a senior military strategist, part of the Global Defense Command. When the first ships appeared, everyone believed they could be reasoned with, negotiated with. Diplomatic channels were opened, translation systems activated. But the collective wanted nothing less than complete annihilation. Their technology was centuries ahead of human understanding. Quantum computing systems that could predict human strategies before they were even conceived. Energy weapons that could slice through the most advanced human defenses like paper. Biological neutralization systems that could shut down human nervous systems with a simple signal. The bunker was more than just a hiding place. It was the last hope of humanity, the Phoenix Initiative. A carefully designed survival protocol that had been decades in preparation. Some called it a crazy idea, others a desperate last chance. But Hyun knew it was humanity's only possibility of survival. Stored within the complex were 500 carefully selected individuals, not just survivors, but the most genetically optimized humans ever created. Each one was a weapon, a strategy, a possibility of revenge and resurrection. Cryogenic chambers held them in suspended animation, their bodies enhanced, their minds programmed with centuries of collected human knowledge. Outside, the world remained a graveyard. Skeletal remains of cities stood as silent monuments to human civilization. Rust-covered vehicles frozen in their final moments of escape, scattered personal belongings, a child's toy, a burned photograph, a broken communication device, told. Stories of lives suddenly interrupted. The collective had been thorough. They didn't just want to defeat humanity. They wanted to erase any possibility of human resistance. Orbital platforms continuously scanned the planet, looking for any signs of human activity. Autonomous drone networks patrolled Ground Zero, eliminating any potential survivors. Hyun walked through the bunker's main control room. Holographic displays showed the last known global positioning of human resistance groups. Most were red, eliminated. A few scattered green dots represented small survivor groups, but their status was uncertain. Communication was impossible. The Phoenix Initiative was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. 500 individuals, each representing a different aspect of human potential. Genetic engineers, military strategists, technological innovators, survival experts, all prepared to be awakened when the time was right. They were not just survivors. They were humanity's reset button. As darkness fell outside, he unchecked the cryogenic systems one more time. The chambers hummed with a soft, almost alive energy. Each chamber represented a potential future, a spark of hope in a world consumed by darkness. Somewhere in this technological tomb, humanity waited to be reborn. The collective thought they had won. They believed they had exterminated humanity, reduced an entire species to a footnote in galactic history. But they didn't understand the true nature of human survival. They didn't know about the Phoenix Initiative. The first chamber hissed open, with a soft pneumatic sound. Ji-Eun's eyes flickered, then opened wide, pupils adjusting to the dim light of the underground facility. Around her, other chambers began to activate, a symphony of mechanical awakening breaking the long silence. Dr. Seok Hwang watched carefully from the central monitoring station. Each awakening was a delicate process. These were not ordinary humans. They were the result of decades of genetic optimization, technological enhancement, and carefully planned survival strategies. Every person in this room represented humanity's last hope. Ji-Eun's first breath felt different. Her lungs processed air with enhanced efficiency, her muscles already adapting to the environment. Neural implants sparked to life, connecting her brain to a vast network of information. Memories of her previous life blended with the programmed knowledge stored in her enhanced neural pathways. Nearby, Sung-min lifted himself from his chamber. His hands moved with precision, testing each muscle group, each enhanced sensory input. The room around him was a marvel of human engineering, a perfect blend of survival technology and last resort planning. Status check. Dr. Hwang's voice echoed through the facility. One by one, the awakened individuals responded. Their voices were calm, controlled, nothing like the panic that would have consumed ordinary humans in such a situation. Ji-Eun approached the central holographic display. Decades of information flooded her mind. The complete history of the collective invasion, the fall of human civilization, the precise details of their current location and mission. She wasn't just remembering. She was processing entire libraries of information in seconds. The facility was a marvel of human ingenuity. Located deep beneath the Andes Mountains, it was designed to be undetectable by the collective's most advanced scanning technologies. Layers of quantum shielding, electromagnetic camouflage, and thermal dissipation systems made it a perfect hidden base. Sung-min began running system diagnostics. Each enhanced individual was more than just a soldier. They were a complete survival unit. Medical nanobots already circulated through their bloodstreams, repairing any potential damage from long-term cryosleep. Genetic optimizations allowed for rapid healing, enhanced strength, and incredible mental adaptability. Dr. Hwang watched with a mixture of pride and anxiety. These 500 individuals represented humanity's entire future. They were scientists, strategists, engineers, and warriors, each carefully selected to provide the best possible chance of human survival and potential reconquest. Primary systems online, Ji-Eun reported. Her voice was steady, almost emotionless. The neural implants had removed most emotional barriers, creating perfect logical operators. Yet, beneath the surface, a deep human determination burned bright. The facility began to fully activate. Massive storage areas revealed advanced technological resources, weapons beyond current alien understanding, research materials, preservation units containing human genetic samples. Everything had been prepared for this moment. Sung-min accessed the communication systems. Years of silence had passed, but their advanced technologies might still find some remnants of human communication. Each scan, each probe was a careful attempt to understand the current state of their world. Ji-Eun moved to the tactical planning room. Holographic displays came to life, showing the global landscape. The destruction was complete. Cities reduced to wasteland, entire continents transformed into dead zones. But she saw something the collective didn't. Potential. "We are ready," Dr. Hwang announced. It wasn't a question or a hope. It was a statement of fact. Humanity's last battalion was awake, prepared and ready to fight. The first phase of the Phoenix Initiative was complete. 500 enhanced humans stood ready to reclaim a world that had been taken from them. They were not survivors. They were humanity's revenge. Outside the facility, the world remained silent. The collective believed they had won. They had no idea what was about to be unleashed. The laboratory hummed with an electric energy that felt almost alive. Sung-min's fingers danced across holographic interfaces, breaking down alien technologies with a precision that seemed impossible. Around him, other enhanced humans worked with calculated efficiency, transforming captured collective technology into something entirely new. Ji-un watched carefully as a massive energy system slowly took shape. What had once been a collective weapon was now being reconstructed, not just copied but fundamentally reimagined through human creativity. The aliens had technology, but humans had something far more powerful: adaptability. First breakthrough confirmed, Sung-min announced. His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge of excitement. They had discovered a critical weakness in the collective's quantum communication network, a flaw so subtle that only human intuition could have spotted it. The facility was now a hub of technological resurrection. Entire rooms were dedicated to dismantling, understanding, and reimagining alien technologies. Each captured piece of equipment was like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Where the collective saw fixed systems, the humans saw possibilities. Dr. Huang reviewed the latest test results. The neural interfaces they were developing were unlike anything in known space. They weren't just connecting technology to human brains. They were creating a symbiotic system that amplified human potential beyond any previous limitations. Nearby, a team of engineers worked on what looked like a communication device. But it was far more than that. They were developing a system that could communicate across quantum barriers, potentially allowing them to detect and communicate with any remaining human resistance groups. Ji-un's enhanced vision picked up microscopic details that would have been invisible to normal human eyes. She could see the very molecular structure of the technologies they were working with, understand their fundamental composition in ways the collective could never imagine. "We're not just copying," Sung-min explained to a group of younger team members. "We're improving. Every piece of technology we touch becomes something uniquely human." It was more than just technical work. It was an act of defiance of survival. The weapon systems they were developing were unlike anything in galactic history. Traditional alien technologies relied on raw power and predictive algorithms. The raw, human approach was different, unpredictable, creative, driven by something beyond pure logic. One of the most promising developments was a stealth technology that could completely nullify the collective's advanced scanning systems. It wasn't about hiding, it was about becoming invisible in ways the aliens couldn't comprehend. Dr. Huang reviewed the psychological profiles of each team member. They weren't just technicians, they were the ultimate survivors. Years of careful, genetic optimization, neural enhancement, and strategic training had created something entirely new. Humans who could think faster, adapt quicker, and imagine beyond known limitations. The facility had become a forge of human potential. Every captured piece of collective technology was a potential weapon, a potential solution. They were learning, adapting, transforming faster than any species in galactic history. "Communication network analysis complete," a team member announced. The holographic display showed a complex web of alien communication systems that now had critical vulnerabilities. The collective believed their technology was perfect. They were wrong. Sung-min smiled, a rare display of emotion. They had done more than survive. They were preparing to fight back. Each breakthrough was a step towards reclaiming their world, their future. The most remarkable aspect of their work was its unpredictability. The collective's technologies were based on fixed algorithms, predictive models that assumed rational, measurable responses. Human technology was different. It was driven by creativity, by an ability to think beyond expected patterns. Outside the facility, the world remained a wasteland. But inside, humanity was being reborn. Not through brute force, but through intelligence, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit of survival. They were no longer just survivors. They were architects of their own resurrection. The first strike came without warning. Eugene Park's tactical team moved like ghosts through the abandoned landscape, their advanced camouflage technology making them invisible to even the most sophisticated collective scanning systems. Their target was a communication relay station, a critical node in the alien network. But this wasn't going to be a traditional attack. The humans had something far more dangerous: understanding. Sungmin had spent weeks analyzing the collective's communication patterns. Their systems were advanced, but predictable. Humans were anything but predictable. Each movement, each strategy was designed to create maximum psychological disruption. The team moved silently. Enhanced muscular systems allowed them to move without creating even the slightest sound. Their neural implants connected them in a way no alien communication system could understand. A living, breathing network of human intelligence. First, they disrupted the relay's external communication systems, not by destroying them, but by inserting complex quantum signals that would make the collective believe their own systems were malfunctioning. Confusion would be their first weapon. Ji-Yoon monitored the operation from the underground facility. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, tracking every microscopic change in the alien network. What looked like a simple communication disruption was actually a carefully planned psychological operation. The collective had believed they had completely eliminated human resistance. They had no concept of the Phoenix Initiative, no understanding of the enhanced humans who had been preparing for this moment. Yujin's team planted quantum entanglement devices, technology so advanced it could create false communication signals that would spread through the entire collective network. Each signal was a carefully crafted piece of misinformation designed to create doubt, confusion, and internal conflict. At another location, a different team was working on resource disruption. They weren't destroying collective infrastructure. They were subtly changing it. Small modifications that would slowly but surely create critical failures in their advanced systems. Primary objective achieved, Yujin reported. But it was more than an objective. It was a message. Humanity was not dead. Humanity was fighting back. The psychological warfare was precise. Each action was calculated to make the collective question their own systems, their own intelligence. Where they expected direct confrontation, the humans gave them uncertainty. Another team worked on energy network disruption. They weren't cutting power. They were redirecting it, creating subtle fluctuations that would slowly destabilize entire collective control systems. It was like a cancer growing within their most advanced technologies. Dr. Huang watched the operation with calculated precision. These weren't random attacks. Each movement was part of a larger strategy, a chess game where humans were finally several moves ahead. The most remarkable aspect of their counteroffensive was its subtlety. The collective was used to overwhelming force, to complete destruction. They had no defense against an enemy that could think beyond traditional warfare. Communication. Intercepts revealed growing confusion among collective command structures. Small seeds of doubt were being planted. Where once they saw humans as a defeated species, now they were beginning to see something else, a potential threat. Yujin's team began their extraction, moving like shadows through the destroyed landscape. They had done more than complete a mission. They had sent a message that would echo through the entire collective network. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity was not defeated. Humanity was fighting back. And this was just the beginning. The first counteroffensive had succeeded, not through massive destruction but through something far more powerful: human intelligence, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit of survival. The collective had no idea what was coming. The final battle wasn't what anyone expected. No massive explosions, no huge spaceships, just a quiet, calculated destruction of the collective's entire command structure. Hyun Park stood at the central command, watching holographic displays that showed the systematic collapse of alien systems. Each movement was precise, each strategy perfectly calculated. Humanity had become something the collective could never understand, an unpredictable adaptive force. Jeon's team had discovered the critical weakness in the collective's hierarchical system. Their entire communication network relied on a central quantum processing hub. One small disruption could cause a complete system failure. The attack began silently, Quantum signals inserted into the collective's communication network started creating microscopic errors. At first, they were unnoticeable, tiny glitches that seemed random, but each glitch was a carefully designed virus of human creation. Sungmin had spent months developing the infiltration strategy. The collective believed their systems were perfect, unbreakable. They didn't understand human creativity, human ability, to find solutions beyond logical parameters. Communication channels between collective command centers began to fail. Small errors became larger problems. What seemed like simple technical issues were actually a carefully planned destruction of their entire infrastructure. The first signs of panic came through intercepted communications. Alien commanders began questioning their own systems, their own leadership. Doubt spread faster than any weapon could travel. Humans had discovered something more powerful than physical destruction: psychological warfare. Yujin's tactical teams moved across different strategic points. They weren't fighting a traditional war. They were dismantling an entire alien civilization from within, using nothing more than advanced technology and human intelligence. Dr. Huang watched the operation with a mix of pride and determination. These were not just soldiers. They were the preserved essence of human potential. 500 individuals who represented humanity's last hope. The collective's orbital platforms began to fail. Communication networks collapsed. Their advanced scanning systems started showing massive inconsistencies. What had seemed like an unstoppable alien civilization was now revealing its fundamental weakness. Critical infrastructure began to crumble. Energy networks failed. Communication systems died. The collective had believed they had completely eliminated human resistance. They were wrong. Ji Yun's final strategic move was brilliant in its simplicity. By introducing a quantum disruption signal into the main collective command hub, she effectively turned their entire technological network against itself. Systems began to conflict, to destroy their own infrastructure. Hyun Park watched as entire alien command structures collapsed, not through brute force, but through a sophisticated understanding of technological vulnerabilities. Humans had become something more than survivors. They had become architects of their own redemption. The final moments of the collective's control were surprisingly quiet. No massive explosions, no dramatic space battles, just a systematic, calculated destruction of an entire alien civilization's technological infrastructure. As the last communication systems failed, a message was sent. Not a message of revenge, but a message of survival. Humanity was not just surviving, it was reclaiming its place in the universe. Orbital platforms went dark. Communication networks collapsed. The collective's supposedly unbreakable systems fell apart like a complex machine suddenly losing all its support structures. Dr. Huang looked at the team around him. 500 enhanced humans who represented humanity's entire future. They had done more than survive. They had proven that human potential was the most powerful force in the universe. The world outside began to change. Destroyed cities showed first signs of potential reconstruction. Damaged ecosystems began to show signs of recovery. Humanity was not just fighting back, it was rebuilding. As the final systems of the collective collapsed, a new era began. Not an era of destruction, but an era of possibility. Humans had learned that their greatest strength was not in technology, but in their ability to adapt, to think beyond expected limitations. The crisis was over. Humanity had awakened.